Hello. It is currently Halloween 2019, and I thought no better time than right now to chronicle my first ever DMT experience. I want this channel to be a platform or like a portal where I can talk about my gnarly supernatural experiences that I've had so that I can reflect and gain more insight on my own journey, but also help other people who might be thinking that they're crazy or whatever. And you definitely are crazy, but I don't think crazy is such a bad thing. It can be a bad thing if it gets really imbalanced, but for now we're going to talk about my first ever DMT experience, and it was one of the most transformative visions and experiences I've ever had in my life. Oh, hey Cooper. Hey Cooper. The dog's coming in my room right now. Come here. Cooper. 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 Yes, we're gonna talk about the DMT experience. Okay, but like I need to focus. Okay. Dog out. Good boy. The first thing I'm going to talk about is basically prep work. So I knew a little bit ahead of time I was going on this trip, and like any trip that you're going on, you want to prepare. You want to pack your bag, you want to have what you might need on the trip, you want to like have your house clean so you come back home to a nice house, or like that's what grandma taught me, shout out Nana. So even though I was going on like a cosmic psych trip and not like a physical trip, I still wanted to act like I prepped like I was going out of town for the weekend. So basically I fed myself, I cleaned my room, like the ritual, the experience started before I even like consumed any of the substance, and basically cleaned my room, fed myself really well, took a bath, felt like reborn, like a baby, nourished my skin, got dressed, got like really comfy clothes, and basically was ready for the experience. And I was like super nervous, but I had been calling this experience into my reality for a while, so it was time to surrender and trust. And so I did that. And basically, okay, so like I'm all prepped, I'm ready to go, the ritual has started, and I go into my friend's room, who is one of the most like magical fairy beings I've ever met and known, and her room is like all set up, this container to explore self and magic and the cosmos. So I felt very safe and like very, very, very grounded. So I go, I have a seat in a chair, and I basically like swaddle myself like a baby. I'm just like, here I am, like I'm ready to go, like, you know. So I'm sitting there, and my friends had started to take the substance or whatever, and I remember like sitting there, and my other friend like brought it to my mouth and was basically like, yo, hit this, hold your breath for as long as you can, and like do the thing. So like I'm sitting there and I'm so scared, you know, like I'm not even using my hands, I'm just like breathing in, and probably on my second hit, I knew I was starting to trip because how do I put it, physical reality, it looks like things are separate, like it looks like my hands are separate right now. But then when I started to be under the influence of these chemicals, which naturally exist in my body, it's released when you're born and when you die, so basically activating these chemicals that are already in my body, the form and the edges of things started to dissolve. It was like blah, 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 blah. Like stuff got melty, and I was just like, what? And I remember having the thought of, oh, stuff is starting to get melty, and then like being instantly taken very far away from even having that thought, being taken far away from having a concept of self who thinks thoughts, just like, you know, is like things are melty, and now we're beyond even thinking that things are things and that they can be melty. So I'm there thinking things are melty, and before I knew it, okay, so this is like I'm in trip space at this point. My body is grounded safely in my friend's room. I feel love, I feel safe. All of like the groundwork has been set for me to really like do some blasting off, you know? And I remember looking to like my left, and there was this like super scary demonic entity, looked like Freddy Krueger type character, like striped shirt, kind of longer black hair, like gray, sickly skin, sharp teeth, black, beady eyes, and this entity, I don't know if it was like a thought form, like something from my own psyche, or it was like something separate than me. Long story short, we'll call it like a demon, you know, and it was just like it wanted to eat me. But I think less about wanting to eat me, it fed off of my fear, it fed off my anxiety. It was like, num num num, gimme 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 gimme. So of course I'm staring at this entity, and like the more attention I gave to it, the more it was just like pulling me in, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like a beam, or like my will had vanished, and I was just being sucked into this entity's zone. But I also noticed that like in front of the entity there was a fence, and the fence was made of light. So basically this entity was contained by this light fence, and it couldn't get me. The trick was like I had to give myself to it. I had to go to it because it was bound and it couldn't come get me, but it was using like trickery or whatever to be like, come here, like siren-y, like lure you to your detriment type of a thing. But like I saw this fence and I'm like, what? Like I'm very, very scared, but there's also this fence. And then at that point, whether you want to call it like a spirit guide or an angel or some other aspect of myself or a different thought form, it was, okay, so like I'm looking over here and I get like something trying to get my attention to be like 180 degrees the other way. So I'm like, oh, okay, and like it just kept snapping, and sure enough, my attention slowly goes from this like shadow monster, I want to eat you, to just like, and like once I followed my guide or my intuition to be like, it was literally to the effect of, that thing is nothing. It can only affect you if you choose to give yourself over to it. But we're going over here. Like don't even, it's like very casual, like don't worry about it. So I was just like, okay, I don't know. Like I'm in a different realm. So I'm going with my spirit guide essentially. So I'm guided. I like turn my face from the heavy shadowy thing, and then the whole experience like shifted again. So it like shifted. And then this, from the spirit guide's point of view, it was like, oh, now that we have your attention, we want to show you cool stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I was really scared over there, but it's nice to know that there's like a light fence protecting me, and like I'm guided. But the awareness of how powerful, like how important it is to be mindful of what we give our attention to, because that's what we feed, and we want to be feeding things that nourish us and like give us stuff back, and like not feeding basically parasitic entities, or I mean do what you want to do. But for me, I am not trying to be like feeding these entities certain entities that I've crossed paths with, because they're just very dark and heavy. I don't know if I would call them evil, but they think they are more disconnected to source consciousness than I like to know I'm connected to, and like vibe with other beings that like to be more connected to source consciousness. That being said, I think all entities are connected to source, like everything is source type of a deal, but other entities are playing out, no, I'm cutting myself off from that. Again, I'm not calling that evil, I'm calling that not exactly what I'm trying to vibe with right now. So it's like, don't look at that entity, we're going up. And it was like I was in an elevator, like ascending with my, like me and my spirit guide, my higher self or whatever, and it's like going up. And then the first level I went to was basically earth, I got to see this version of Earth with like humanoid beings. If you think of like the AOL guy, if you remember that, just like a very or like a person on like a bathroom thing, just like a very basic silhouette of like a being, like a human being. And I saw them all gathered in a circle, like I'm the witness, and I see them all gathered in a circle, and their heart chakras, from their heart, this like green light, and it's like bing, like shooting out this green light, and it's like bing, 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 bing from everyone in the circle's heart chakra. This like green light is binging out, and in this plane, in this vision, what I got from that was like such hope for humanity and Earth and like the children of Earth and all of that stuff through living heart-centered lives to the best that we can. And I know like in the world it's very easy to get like a heavy type of a heart, but I will get more into like lightheartedness later in this video. So basically I see this earthly realm, I see beings like all connected, and I'm like witnessing, and I was just like, yeah, cool. And then my spirit guide was like, all right, you get it? All right, cool. Like going up. So then it like, the whole vision, the whole experience shifts again, and I go up again. And then this was like feeling at the peak of the ascension. Like I literally, my head was back, my arms were back, my chest was up, and like I was being pulled up by my heart. Is just like, you know, but it didn't hurt or anything, just very much like, like surrender, like, here I am, but you know, I felt guided. So I'm like going up, and like I reached the tippy point, and basically it was like a door, like a gate, like a zone. Think like if you're going out to a club or something, there's like the line and people are trying to get in, like that type of energy. So I'm standing there, and on the other side of the boundary is this like pink, think like what a womb would be, just like pink, warm, nurturing to life, just literally feeling the most unconditional love I've ever felt or ever known. And it was like, come on, like come to the party, come to the dance. And I'm standing there, and basically this experience is the closest I've had in this lifetime to playing out death, like what happens when you die, and specifically the Egyptian kind of version of death where your heart is weighed against a feather. And so like I'm there, I'm at like the Unconditional Love club, so to speak. The bouncer's like, come on in, like we got you. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I have a heavy, heavy heart, and I'm like, no, I can't come to the Unconditional Love club. Like, and then I start thinking what Kayla the human has done in this lifetime and all the ways I've fallen short of essentially divinity and perfection. And I'm like, no, but I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I just like, as if I were a lawyer prosecuting my own self, I was like ruthless, like judging myself, like, no, like this bitch does not deserve all of this love, like you don't understand. And then this like cosmic unconditional loving force was just like, it was kind of confused. It was like, no, you don't understand, none of that matters, you are loved unconditionally, come on, like let's dance. And I'm like, no, you don't understand, I've done X, Y, and Z, and I can't come dance with you. And like this bit goes on for like maybe infinity, who knows, because time's not really there. This bit goes on and on. They're like, you don't understand, come on. And then I'm like, you don't understand, judge, harshness. This goes on, and then finally I was like, whoa, just like cleared it from my heart, and I was like, all right, like I will come dance with you. There wasn't any external judge of me. It was literally like what I perceived as external than me was like, we love you unconditionally, come vibe. And then me, I was the judge. Like I was judging myself really harshly. Anyway, that wasn't working, so I decided to switch it up and be like, I forgive myself. My heart is light as a feather. What's good? So like I broke this plane, this barrier of like this unconditional loving force that was like kind of peach colored, and then I just started dancing. This was again like the peak of like a gnarly trip. So I'm like literally in my human body, I remember like swirling my arms. It was all like swirly vibes, and it felt like the mother and father of my soul were there, like my cosmic mother, my cosmic father. And then at a certain point I turned my head, and basically this like head of Jesus Christ, he shows up, and I hear like a little whisper, and it's like, Christ consciousness. Like it whispers Christ consciousness to me, and I'm just like, whoa. Because I definitely don't vibe with like all of the aspects of Christianity. I can make more videos about that, but like for better or worse, certain thought forms have been deeply programmed in my psyche, such as like Christ or like Christ heart, Christ brother, all of this stuff. So in this trip, I'm experiencing Jesus come, and it was like my cosmic mother was there, my cosmic father was there, and then JC, my cosmic brother, was there, and I was there, little cosmic sister who found her way back home. And it was like a soul family reunion in the astral plane or like in the other world or whatever. So I feel like some beings would probably call that heaven. I guess I could call it like heaven or nirvana or bliss or whatever. But it was so cool, like dancing there with my fam for who knows how long. And I'm dancing, and I'm feeling the most unconditional love I've ever known, and like I'm tripping out on how I was the one keeping me from that, and then I was the one that let me have that. Like it was there the whole time type of thing, which reminds me of Genesis, basically when Adam and Eve eat the fruit. Like God isn't mad at them per se. They get all guilty and trip out, like wear clothes because they're ashamed and stuff, and they turn their face from God, and God's like, yo, where you at? Like, where are you at? Like, come dance. So like it reminded me of that whole thing, like when my soul was being asked to enter this super loving realm. I was like, oh no, taking on that sin and burden of man and turning my face from God or whatever, but then being like, oh, I remember that my soul is actually very pure and comes from here and is like doing a different dance than what my human dance is. Like, I remember. So that was really cool. So I'm vibing out with my soul fam, and then it was like this really loving, compassionate hand like taps me on the shoulder and was like, hey, it's time to go back now, meaning back to my body, like back to this right here, right now. And I remember being so sad that I had to like leave the family reunion or whatever, but I also remember like feeling such joy that I could cross planes back and fully remember that part of my experience. And I wanted to be, it was like I wanted to make my parents proud. I didn't want to throw a tantrum or be like, no, but I want to stay. Like I wanted to be very dignified, head held high. Thank you, mommy. Thank you, daddy. See you, bro. I'm going back to earth now. Just very like stoic. I took it very stoically, although I was very sad to leave. And basically at this point, I like descended very gently from that gnarly peak, and I just remember coming back into my body. I'm like back in the chair, back in the room, back in my friend's room, Columbus, I'm Kayla, like all of these things, you know, like a very smooth come back down transition. And I remember just like being still and wanting to like ground into the experience that I just had. Like I didn't want to move my body. I wanted to cling on to like anything that was still being there. And I'm in that meditation for like a while, just really soaking it all in. I look over, my friends are like on the bed, they're still there, everything's good. Ground control, like we're still good. came up, came back down, and then finally I could have stayed in that meditation for like a long time, but I wanted to not forget what just happened. So I remember like willing myself to move my fingers like ever so gently, and then like moving my hand and like awakening this, that I am now. And like I went to my journal and just started like channeling everything I could remember about the experience and just being like, what was that? And it was so beautiful. As I'm talking now, I remember another thing that happened, like another vision that happened during my experience. Basically after the earthly realm and before like the more heavenly realm, there was this space of witnessing myself. So imagine this pen is me, So I'm in this space and I see the house that I'm living in, and I see myself as if I were a doll in a dollhouse. I am seeing myself, and it was like watching a Sims character. You guys know Sims. And I could see my little avatar, and it was like, oh, she's hungry, and she's like, bing, 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 like walks down like this cross section of the house I lived in, like hunger, and then like walking down the steps, and then I'm there, this like disembodied consciousness viewing, and I saw my avatar, like this body, and I felt the most like, not self-love, not like self-compassion, but just like, what's the human word? I have to go to the feelings chart. It was like I loved that it was like love and compassion for that being. It felt like I felt very responsible for that being. I felt humbled to be like connected to that. I just felt overwhelmed with positive emotion in seeing that. And in the work I've been doing with meditation, having that perspective, it's perspective, right? Being able to see oneself in 3D space is something that is very valuable. Like it's come up for me in my meditation practice. So it was like trippy to be like, oh, I unlocked that perspective in a big way when I did DMT, basically. But yeah, it cultivated a lot of self-love, a lot of compassion. But yeah, it's Halloween, like I said, and I've not talked about this trip for a while, and I was like, dare I be so bold and like share such nuggets of light? And it's like, yeah, I dare be so bold. But my main point in making this video is just to shed light on like what happens when you die. Like, I'm not trying to say I know what happens when everyone dies, but like I know I'm responsible for my heart and my soul. And I think when I die, I will return to this place that's basically like, hey, do you want to come to this unconditional loving realm? Like, you can come be here for like however long you want, or do you want to go play out stuff on earth because you have like a chip on your shoulder? It's just like, is your heart light as a feather, unconditional love, or is it not? Like, back to earth, reincarnate, like work through your stuff. So my goal, my intention is to fully remember this life. When I die, be like, okay, I'm here to testify for the life of Kayla Lowry. She was imperfectly perfect. I am a soul. My soul never left this unconditional loving place, so I'm gonna go back there. And if I do want to come back to earth, I would like to fully remember at least this life, like the life of Kayla, and be like more of a professional reincarnator type of person and help other people. But basically, I feel like when people die, they can't detach from their earthly sins or whatever. Like, I'm using these religious terms just to like convey these abstract type of concepts, but they'll be like, but like, this is just what I did. I was like, no, I've done this. No, I like had a whole list of stuff that I had done. Like, and like this cosmic force was like, we don't care. Like, we don't care. Come dance. So I'm sharing this video primarily to help people die better. And when you die, be like, my heart is as light as a feather. I'm gonna go to the unconditional love, source of my soul, and dance with my cosmic mother and father, maybe some Jesus Christ. I don't know, like, my reality is created by my thoughts, and I'm running certain programs such as like the English language and stuff like that. So like the afterlife I can construct might be fundamentally different from other people's afterlives. Like I think it's heavily based on thought forms and stuff like that. So I'm saying, I don't want you to have the same experience as me. I want you to have your own experience. But from what I understand of like the Egyptian death cults and stuff, like Anubis is there and he's weighing your heart against a feather. So I'm just trying to shed light on how to make your heart as light as a feather by basically knowing that you are worthy of unconditional love. You are worthy of unconditional love despite anything you've done on the earthly plane. It's like remembering that, you know what I mean? And I'm saying that first and foremost to myself because I want to live a nice life, but at the same time, I think it's really important to understand what happens when we die. I know not everyone is even trying to think about that, but I'm just like, it seems super important. Yeah, so I'm excited I got to share that video. I hope it helps like anyone's heart and soul even a little bit. And yeah, if you are using psychedelics as tools for healing, growth, and expansion, just remember I'll like make separate videos about like wellness when doing that type of stuff. But they've honestly been a big part of my path and my development. I don't use them lightly. I use it pretty ritualistically, and it's cool to see psych as a field getting I guess psychedelics getting more mainstream because people are like, oh, this helps people. Anyway, I don't want to say too much in this video. I will make other videos about how to use psychedelics more responsibly. But yeah, that was the story of my first ever DMT experience told to you on Halloween 2019. Let me know if you want to hear more supernatural types of stories, because like I got them, or what else you would like to hear. I by all means don't know everything, but I am plugged in to the spiritual plane for better or worse, just like having visions and connections, like knowing stuff and things. If you would like a tarot reading or you'd like some energy work, I'm here for you. I can be a mirror for you. I love you. If and when you die, understand that you can essentially, like, you are the judge of you more than an external tyrant being the judge of you. Or that's what I think, that's what I experienced. If you like this content, make sure to like, share, subscribe, share it with someone who might be in like a dark night of the soul type of place if you think it would help them. And yeah, much love, have a happy Halloween. Eat sugar if you want to, don't eat sugar if you don't want to. Yes, peace be with you. Bye.